Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Christel Crawford Show. I'm your host, your instigator, your hot mess of a human being. My name is Christel, and I've got Glenyce Hughes with me today. Hi, honey.
Hi, it's so great to be here.
It's so good to have you. And we called this show very cleverly Ask Us Anything, because I wanted to put a lot of thought into the title. And so we did have some very brave people actually send in some questions. So we're going to dive into that. But I just want to let you guys know, if you're watching this live or somewhere in the next week, there are some links to register for the classes that we're doing together right above my head. And so, you know, if this energy mayhem speaks to you, you are invited. Okay, Glenyce, I am very bad at small talk. So should we just jump into the questions?
Let's do it.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit before we do?
Yeah. So yeah, I think people know who I am. If you don't, oh my gosh, you should.
What is wrong with you?
Where have you been?
So Glenyce is actually getting on an airplane to fly my direction. She's in Canada, but Canada's huge. So she's airplaning it tomorrow. And we were just laughing and crying a little bit about the awareness piece around traveling. So anyway, so if you make it through tomorrow and you don't die, then I'll see you in a few days.
Wait. I mean, it depends what they want to swab. I might kill somebody and then where are they going to swab me? So this is my question.
You want to swab where?
You will damn well take me to dinner first.
Oh my God. I'm sweating. Oh, that's so good. Okay. All right. So you guys have sent in some questions where I have to, if I find them, that's my next. Okay. So Glenyce, we're going to start with Jade. I think she tapped into the psychic questions of everybody in the whole universe, because she sent in about 8 and they're good. So let's start there. So let me preface this a little. She says, it's funny because you and Glenyce are the two that I've been watching. And knowing that I could create as big as both of you. However, I'm both aware of where I am and where you both are and the difference between that. So her first question is, what could I begin to choose that would help me ask bigger or choose bigger? And go.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would look at, Jay, just for the bit of the question there is there any judgment in where you are and where we are? I know you said you're aware of it, and sometimes we have these things called refined judgment, which means we think it's actually awareness, but it's actually a very refined judgment. So you could just run all the decisions, judgments, conclusions, computations, projections, rejections, expectations, separations, refined judgments that I have about where I am, where I think I should be, where other people am, where I'm not, like whatever kind of pops, right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pop, shorts, boys, and beyonds, and do that often. And that, you'll often hear me use the acronym DJCC, Pisser and RJ. Dane says Pez Jr. However you want to say it, it doesn't matter.
Pisser and RJ is my new favorite word. I've been being refined and saying Pez Jr., but I'm going to say Pisser and RJ now.
And so if you run that on everything all the time, your life will get way more spacious and you will have way more awareness and you will actualize those asks that you're aware of. But if there's any sort of judgment in there about where we are, where anybody else is in relation to you, you're basically just going to trip yourself up over and over and over.
Yeah, I did that a lot in the early days. I would do a lot of just comparison of me and where I was and where I really wanted to be. And I could already perceive the future of where I was going to be, but it wasn't here yet. So I used a lot of that awareness to judge myself more than anything. I don't know if I used it to slow myself. Well, I slowed myself down for a solid 1.5 years before I actually just put my head down and got to work. And I guess that would be do exactly what Glenyce said, and then just look at, would I be willing to look at just taking the first step? Because it doesn't matter where you're starting from. There's always, there's where you are and what you can choose to start. And I remember on Gary Douglas, who's the founder of Access, for those of you guys that don't know, did this incredible business call series a couple of years ago. And, you know, Gary's very blunt. You think we're blunt. Gary's blunt. And so I forget exactly what the question was, but it was really like, it was similar to this. It's like, well, it was something about starting, and it was something about the frustration and the impatience of how long that's going to take. And he's like, you guys want the results that you're going to get 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, 10 years down the road now. He's like, you got to be willing to go through the beginning stages where there's nothing, right? Like, it's just, you're starting. And that was really helpful for me for some reason, because it was like, I kept doing this thing where I thought I should be somewhere and I wasn't. And when I just finally let that go and just looked at, well, I'm not there yet. and sat with and was with like where I was, then I don't know, everything seemed to get easier. So it's also like just really a lot of allowance for just where you are, and using people like us to inspire you, but never using people like us to stop you. Not that you won't, you will. But when you catch yourself doing it, although decisions, judgments, computations, conclusions, and pissers, what?
Yeah. Right,
wrong, good, bad, pot, all name, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Yeah. Okay, so she's got another one here. So what could I choose that would help me surpass limitations and choose a bigger possibility of me? Man, my response to that is like, strengthen your choosing muscle. Like, I don't know if that's helpful. What do you have on that?
Yeah. To me, there's something a little funny. Like if you were talking to us right now, Jade, I would ask you, like, what does choose beyond limitations mean? Because if you decided you need to like sit down in them and make out with them before you can choose beyond them, that becomes a really big limitation, rather than just be like, acknowledge that thing that maybe you've chosen in the past, and now what can you choose? Like, it doesn't have to be what I did for years and years was I played with the problem thinking that would create a new possibility, but that's not it. All playing with the problem does is create new problems. Yeah. It's a huge distraction. So I would get maybe even the DJCCs, pissers, and RJs around the limitations you've decided you have, or that you have to choose beyond, or something, just to have more space in there so that you can be aware of what you'd like to choose in that 10 seconds. You don't have to choose beyond anything. It's just, what would you like to create in that 10 seconds?
Yeah, the other thing that pops out to me is that bigger possibility of me. It's like, what does that mean? Like, if you want to choose bigger, be bigger. Bigger has got awareness or judgment. That's what I would look at. Is this awareness or is this judgment? And it a lot of times can be mashed together. It's like you have an awareness of a bigger possibility, but what you're doing with it is to judge you. So I would also like, just again, pock and pod all your DJCCs about what bigger means to you. What does bigger mean to me? And what do I think I should be being that I'm not being? And everything that is, right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all name, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And what am I already being that I'm not acknowledging? Because we are all actually a gift right where we are. Like I kept thinking I had to be somewhere else to be a gift. It turns out I had to be the gift in order to be somewhere else. Everything's the opposite of what it appears to be. So what would it take for me to choose and create possibilities that go beyond me? I would ask you what that means to you, and provide a greater possibility for awareness on the planet. So I guess what I would say to this particular question is like, let's just ask a different question. Like, what would it take to create a reality beyond this reality? What reality am I capable of generating, creating, and instituting, and everything that doesn't allow that to show up, right? Wrong, good, bad, pop, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Because there's all these, you nailed it with refined judgments about what bigger is and what more is and what I should be that I'm not. And that's what I would look at with that.
Yeah. The other thing with a lot of these questions, Jade, once you get to like no judgment in them, I would turn them into the ESC, CMMP question, you know, so it used to just be ESC questions, which is very easy to say, but now we've added a lot of awesome words, energies really. So what energy, space, consciousness, choice, magic, miracles, mysteries, and possibilities can you and your body be to ask beyond what you've ever asked before? I don't recall your words, but like I would create them as asks, and actually ask them every day, be them every day, be curious every day. Once any judgment is cleared, then when you ask that, it'll be like, Ooh, because whatever you ask, the universe will deliver. So if you spend your time in problem or limitation, then the universe will deliver more of that. And if you're asking for this sort of yumminess, the universe will deliver that. And of course, you be the universe.
Yeah. Then her next question is, what steps can I take to be, know, perceive, and receive the greater ask that I can ask that would change realities?
Energy, space, consciousness, choice, magic, miracles, mysteries, and possibilities can my body and I be to be the perceive, know, be, receive, the greater ask that I can ask with total ease. I don't know that I got your words correctly, but turn it into that question.
Yeah.
But in anywhere you've decided you need to know specifically what that ask is, will you just destroy and create all that?
Right, wrong, that pop online shorts, boys and beyonds. And everywhere you've linked doing to receiving, you destroy and create all that.
Boys and beyonds.
What choices can I make to receive way more than I've ever thought possible? And I would just change that to what would it take to receive way more than I ever thought possible? What energy, space, consciousness, and choice can me and my body be to receive way more than we've decided we can receive with total ease, and everything that doesn't allow it, times a godzillion, right, wrong, good, bad, pop, online shorts, boys and beyonds. And what would it take for me to choose beyond what I think my limitations are? Good question. And then she just finishes it up with, it's a vulnerable and frustrating place to know and perceive the gift that I am, and also know that I'm not being it. And right there is where I would, if we were live in class, I would stop you right there and I would ask you, is that true? Is it actually true that you're not being it? Listen, anything that you're saying out loud, you have such an, when you start to write or you start to speak out loud, it's a little bit easier to start to tell where things have a lightness to them, that they expand your world and bring more space, and things that have like a thud. And I've discovered there's so many things that I've already decided about myself that I'm not being, because if I were being it, it would be showing up differently, that end up not being true. It's just that the gift that I am is showing up in a totally different way, and I haven't acknowledged it. So you got to ask yourself, when you say those things as if they're a fact, is that actually true? Got any more on that?
I was just remembering how a few years ago you had shared, and I used it on myself a lot, that question that you and Stephanie would ask each other when you said something that sounded factual. Share with these guys.
Yeah, well, so yeah, we just played around a lot with all the tools, and we were probably breakfasting and I was just talking, and I was blah, 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 and all of a sudden she like stopped me and she goes, you say that like it's a fact. And it, of course, stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, I did just say that like it was. And it was something like, I'm terrible. It was, of course, about how I was wrong. Everything that I said as if it was a fact was how I was wrong. And so that became a thing. And we actually brought that into our foundation classes of like, you say that like it's a fact. Is it? You know, recognizing that there is nothing actually in the universe that is set in stone. Not even stone is set in stone. So yeah, so I use that a lot. Do you use that a lot still?
You know what? I haven't in a while, but I'm going to again, because it really allowed me to become aware of when I was saying those statements that were not true. And what happens when we say them? Well, we say them and they're not true. We're going to create more of that lie. But there's also going to be like a sticky energy on it. And so if I'm saying it to somebody who's not maybe totally aware of the stuff we do, they're going to walk away with kind of a sticky energy. And so the more that we're honest with ourselves, and the more that we're aware that there's always something else possible, it was one of those questions that just changed it really quickly. So yeah, when you said it, I'm like, oh yeah.
You say that like it's a fact. And if you say it to yourself, it's that much more effective. It's like, oh, shut up. So she goes, it's vulnerable and frustrating to know and perceive the gift I am, and also know that I'm not being it, and sometimes I don't know how to be it. And I get that. We never know how to be the gift that we are. We just are it. I mean, how do you know how to stand up? You just do. Maybe there is an impatience I'm experiencing. Welcome to the club. Just call a humanoid club where everything takes too long and we want everything yesterday. There's moments that I really perceive what I can create and also a non-action that is happening, or acknowledging that is happening that doesn't allow me to be okay with the process or the baby steps. So thank you for the gift that you both are. Thank you for the inspiration and courage that you create that helps me know and see the gift that I am able to access within me. So it was a lot, but she sort of like, so there was a lot of good questions in there. And my just, I guess, final thoughts or whatever with Jade is just to find the space where you can be kinder to you. What would it take to be kinder to you? And also, just everything's created from our what seems like small daily choices. I like Glenyce, I know you and I are both on this kind of body adventure, changing. Did you find that once you chose it, all of the weight just dropped off immediately the next day?
Well, of course. Yes. 60 pounds. The next morning it was gone. I mean, wasn't it that way for you, Christel?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. The moment I chose it, I woke up and I had the brand new body I was already aware of.
Yeah.
I didn't need to get up every day and stay really present with food and show up to the mat.
No, and that's one thing one of Jade's questions that I was thinking about with it, because when she was talking about kind of comparing us to her, it's like when I would slow down the most with the changes is when I would be in the Facebook groups that are doing the fasting that I also do, and they would do a picture of, they maybe were doing it less than I was and they'd lost more. And all of a sudden I'm going into, oh my gosh, well, what am I doing wrong? And then was spinning and all the crazy, and then everything for my body slowed down because judgment. You can't change from judgment. I mean, you can do a lot of things from judgment, but it's not going to create the future desire.
I have never been able to create change from judgment. I've been able to create destruction. Maybe that's some sort of change. But the change that I say I'm looking for, I have never been able to do it from judgment. I've only been able to do it from allowance and choice. And so it's going, okay, I know there's allowance in here for me somewhere. What would it take for me to actually just, get present with my everyday and go, okay, where can I start with this? No. Yeah. Zeal wants to know, Glenyce, how did you create so much wealth and live a luxury life?
Wow.
All inquiring minds want to know, Glenyce.
Yes.
Tell us the steps.
Oh gosh, I mean, the first thing is just what we're talking about. I had to choose it, and I chose it because I chose the other way for a long time, and it didn't work. I didn't like it. So then when I looked at what would I like, then I turned it around and I took action every day and over and over and over. I mean, if you're listening to my radio shows, you'll start probably the number one to listen to is 2014, May of 2014. Get your head out of your ass. For me, I had to get really aware of money. And it's been a journey ever since. And I'm still choosing towards it. I'm still choosing more and more and more, but there's so many pieces to that. Choice is number one, willing to receive the judgment, willing to receive all the things that people do when you have something different than them and all the crazy, but yeah, the choice and the willingness to really be honest of what I was looking for, not just what Oprah had or what somebody else had that looked cool. It's like truly what was I asking for? Because I'll never create something that doesn't light me up. And so for a long time, I tried to mimic other people's desires and wishes, and that never worked. So, yeah.
Yeah, you, just a small thing, but you and I were just laughing right before we started the show about how, we were laughing about the traveling part, but we were both like, I wouldn't be upset if we never traveled again. Which is funny because you and I both do a lot of traveling when travel is on. And when I get into the, when I'm there and I'm mashing with all the people, I'm like, oh, this is fun and it's good. But honestly, looking at COVID has not upset me at all. I actually really love being home. I love creating my business. I love being in my relationship. I love this. It makes me happy. And, there was a really long time where I compared my happy to everybody else's and I should want a different happy, and success is different for me than it is for anybody else. And I've seen you do that also. It's awesome. All right. So let's see. Let's dive into another one here. Okay, I actually want to get Glenyce's question. Let's see what she asked here. So Glenyce, everyone's hoping they can put their thing into a question. They all start with, I hope I can put this into a question. So she says, working with businesswomen that are in networking. So she is a recently former Mary Kay director. So she got really high in the Mary Kay thing. So she's like working with businesswomen that are in networking, structured with formats, old patterns, points of view everywhere. And the energy often around Mary Kay is so much struggle and loss. So the question is, what is yours in Glenyce's experience? I hope you can get the energy of my attempted question.
Like, is she asking of like how not to be at the effect of their mentality? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? What are your tricks?
The number one thing that I had to get to, and it wasn't even just business people, it was in every area of my life, is I had to be willing to be the most dominant energy in the room. So if somebody was choosing problem, in the past, I would have joined them. I would have mimicked them. I would have done it because it's the nice thing to do. I mean, somebody's saying how much money they don't have, you don't start talking about your mansion. So this is the right way to do it here in this reality. And so what I had to get to was, I also didn't do the opposite. I didn't go, oh, you're having a tough time with money? Well, sucks to be you.
God, I don't have that anymore.
I don't know what you speak of here. No, it was never that. It was just knowing for me that I didn't have to join them. And in fact, it was kinder to me and to them if I didn't. So if they're choosing to have a lack mentality, you still have a choice. No matter who's choosing it, if it's the people on your team, if it's your spouse, if it's your best friend, it doesn't matter who's choosing it. You always have a choice. And it, for me, it was really cognitive. Like, I actually had to not think about it, but I think about it in the sense of, am I willing to match that? Does that work for me? And say no, like actually acknowledge it didn't, and then I could choose what did work for me and allow them to choose whatever.
Yeah. For me, there was a couple of pieces to it. And I had a lot of practice because of my mother. Like, my mother is a walking trauma, literally just trauma everywhere, and walking struggle. So I had a lot of practice with this. And so the two pieces that really changed it for me is that I recognized that every time I would feel bad or get sucked into that energy, I was buying that what they were doing was real. Like, and that's a little bit weird to talk about in words, because what do you mean? I mean, they're doing it, you can feel it, you can perceive it. Like, what do you mean not real? So I'll add the second part and then talk about both. The second part was that not only was it not real, but they needed it. They actually were choosing the struggle. And that took a while for that to sink in and for that to be true, because and the reason we struggle with that as humanoids, and I've really seen this a lot in facilitating, is because as us, we would never choose that. And so you always project onto other people what you choose, right? So if you would never choose it, why the fuck would they? You go into understanding and trying to get it. And to try to understand an energy that somebody's choosing, you have to become it. It's brutal. So the gift of facilitation is that you sort of get to go through this a little faster, because when you are the facilitator, if you buy into it, you're fucked. It's a little different in daily life because you kind of give up being a facilitator and you go into being a person, which is not our best choice. But yeah, so it's like that. It was those two pieces of like, this isn't real, meaning like if I go into empathy and going under trying to become it so that I can change it, then am I actually changing anything? No. If I don't buy it as real and I just go, okay, cool. And they'll choose that until they don't. And if I can contribute anything, let me know. My life got easier. And they actually had the space for a different choice if they wanted it. So that was it. That's a 7-year process summed up in 2 minutes, but that's, yeah. those were the pieces that I guess. So the only thing that I might run is like everywhere I'm trying to understand instead of be, destroy and create all that, right? Where I'm good about pop walk, all the insurance boys and beyonds, and really, really strengthen interesting point of view for yourself too. It's like, also, do you buy your own struggle as real? I think that was the third piece to that of like, when I struggled, I bought that was real. If I was struggling with money, that was real. If I was struggling with relationship, that was real. So do you buy your own struggle as real? And what if you didn't? What if you just got that you're doing struggle at the time, and maybe in the next 10 seconds, you could do another choice. And I wonder what it would take to just really enjoy this at the moment, you know? So that's another piece. And then her next part of her question was just, what would it take for me to have the courage to approach the national sales directors with my coaching? What could that look like? What is possible? I feel so little next to them. That's how I perceive myself. And she put fear in parentheses.
Yeah, so there's a lot.
I know.
Yeah. We're having this really awesome business class next week. And I say this because this is such a huge piece. I mean, we'll give a little snippet, but this is such a huge piece.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say for sure is you want to change that feeling small. And so there's lots of tools and access to do that. You could just really simply run interesting point of view, have that point of view over and over and over when you think about that person. Because that playing small is not allowing you to be all that you can be. And it also is such an unkindness to you and such an unkindness to them.
Yeah.
And I get it. Believe me, I get it. And there's another tool that would take way too long to go through here right now. But that can also change that I've actually used on Gary and Dane for myself. Years and years ago, I interviewed Gary on my radio show. And prior, I was sharing with a friend how excited I was. He's going to be on the show. Oh my God, it's Gary. Oh my God. And she's like, you better run this tool on him or your show's going to be shit.
I want to know what the tool is, but I'm going to have to come to the class to find out.
It also takes some explanation. But really, like you just need to change it. So interesting point of view can really contribute to that too.
I'm going to add one more thing, and then we're probably going to wrap up. And you guys are so invited to the classes. We have a taster tomorrow. That if you sign up for the bigger classes next week, we'll gift you. So let us know. And but so the last thing I would add about that is that I spent my whole life not getting how aware I was, and so there was this other piece to it for me of asking. I feel small around them. Oh wait, is it me that feels small, or does that belong to them? Like when I got around certain people, I would, and it's not always that, right? But that's something I started looking at that gave me a lot of freedom of like, oh, that's not even me that has that point of view. But I had to start to strengthen in all these different areas the fact that I was aware, that I picked up on everything from 8 to 8,000 miles in every direction. Also, like with interviewing Gary, like how many people, if they went to interview Gary, would freak the fuck out, right? It's like, so all these tools, all these clearings and tools are to whatever it takes, get you to the space where you actually get the gift that you are, no matter who you're talking to, no matter what it is you want to choose. And there's so many different ways to get there, which I just love. Well, Glenyce, you're one of my favorite people in the whole world, and I get to hug you in like days. Prepare for the mauling.
Okay.
You guys are going to be inundated with bars selfies, I can tell. Yeah, cool. And you guys, please join us if you'd like to. And if you got anything out of this, share it with your friends. And otherwise, we'll see you hopefully soon.
Yes.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.